Now that we've learned a little bit more about some of the potential financial pitfalls one might incur during a PCS and how to mitigate those as much as possible by being organized, prepared, and well-informed, let's take a closer look at the actual impact that these unexpected expenses are having on military families. So the Military Family Advisory Network, or MFAN, which you will probably hear from now on, has been working for several years now, gathering data from service members, veterans, and their families to better understand all of the aspects of military life and how it affects the folks that are actually living it. Their research-driven approach helps them connect military families to the resources, people, and information that they depend on to successfully navigate all phases of military life. So in addition to their family support programming survey, MFAN also has engaged the military community to better understand specific aspects of military life, such as food insecurity, privatized military housing, and of course, PCSing. So to speak more about that, we have welcomed Shannon Razsadin, who is the president and director of the Military Family Advisory Network. And I am proud to say a close dear friend of mine. Welcome, Shannon. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me, Kelly. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited to have this conversation with you because I feel like MFAN is one of the organizations that has just the ear to the ground. They have almost one of the closest touch points to the military community, and I adore all of the work that you guys do, so much so that I had the honor and privilege of serving twice on the advisory network board. So quick plug. I don't think we're in a cycle. Yeah, I don't think we're in a cycle for new advisors, but everyone put this on your radar. If you're interested in making a huge impact on military families, the MFAN advisory board is a great way to do that. So keep an eye out. So Shannon, what did I miss, first of all, with MFAN? Tell me about the work that you do and what thrives you or makes you fills you with joy, and I know fills your heart with all of the aspects of service that MFAN just truly loves.
All the good things. So I'm a military spouse. We're up in Newport, Rhode Island, which is a very interesting housing market, might I add. But I have a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. My husband's still active duty, and so this is super personal for me in my life. It's a great vocation, is how I describe it. It's a blend of what I'm personally passionate about and what I'm able to move the needle on from a professional perspective. And so as an organization, we'll definitely use MFAN because it's much easier to roll off the tongue. What we really do is we focus on listening and hearing from military families about what's going on in their life. So we work very close with our advisory board that you mentioned, Kelly. And then we also take what we're hearing from the advisory board and we test it in research. So every other year, we do a large survey called the Military Family Support Programming Survey. It's a mixed method survey, which is a research term for saying it has open-ended and also quantitative questions. So it really gives us an opportunity to get great data on what's going on in military families' lives. The thing that's super special about how we do our research is we do take the time to hear from people in their own words, but also because we own the research from start to finish, we're able to dive back in and cross tab against a variety of different areas to really see what's happening in specific locations among specific populations. So that might be branch, rank, and it really gives us some more actionable data that we can move forward across a variety of different areas. And so based on what we learned from that survey, it really helps us set the stage for our work over the 2 years that follow. We have a solution summit coming up this summer, and housing will be one of our focus areas as we get ready for that. But it's about taking the data and really building actionable, collaborative solutions. We don't want to exist in a bubble. We don't want to do anything in a vacuum. And we really work hard to be good partners across the space.
Yeah, it's incredible work. I really love particularly the deep dive portion where it's like, we're seeing this becoming a common theme. Let's see if there's more to learn. So let's dig deeper in there. So one of the things and the issues and topics that you guys have kind of led the charge on is just the PCS transition. And a lot of things bubble up there, and you ask questions about, what is this experience like for you? Like, that is one thing too that I love. It's not like a leading, like, how terrible is PCSing? That would be my survey. But you ask questions to really understand broadly what the impact of the PCS is on the military family. So Shannon, tell us what you have learned.
Yeah, we learned that PCSing is an experience that you can plan for, but you also really have to plan for the unexpected. As we think about it and we think about the things that happen and can happen, we think about what this looks like during a COVID and post-COVID era, it's always a moving target. We know that people have upfront costs and expenses that sometimes they're not prepared for. That could be everything from the cost of an actual move to the first and last month's rent at a new place that you're living. We also see a lot just with the full restart that a family has following a transition. That's everything from the spouse's employment to figuring out childcare, getting a doctor set up. And so we see some of the pain points there. And we also see several $1,000s that go out of pocket that are unreimbursed. And that could be anything from damaged items to, not having everything totally buttoned up, which we all know that we need to work on throughout every step of a move, but there are things that really catch people by surprise. And it's really important to do everything possible to plan, especially right now in such a difficult housing market, and with things like movers and just supply chain challenges that everyone's feeling the pinch around.
Yeah, I mean, we've always kind of anecdotally, I think, told folks like plan for a couple of $1,000s, even though the misconception is like, oh, the military moves you for free, right? There just seems to be always little things coming up. So I think that's fascinating to see that validated kind of across the board for folks' experience.
Of course. And thinking about that emergency savings is so critical. In our research, we found back in 2019, so pre-pandemic, about a quarter of our survey respondents had either no emergency savings or less than $500 in emergency savings. And so a lot of people are living on this bubble where they're just getting by, and then something happens and it's like, oh no, and then it pushes them over the edge into a really difficult space. One of the things that we've been working on over the course of the last 2 years is understanding some of the causal factors around food insecurity. So food insecurity, of course, has been a big focus area of ours, but we know it's not an isolated issue, and we know that it coexists with a lot of other challenges that people are dealing with. And we've seen that housing and PCSing is a part of that. It's whenever there's that transition or that shakeup of things that kind of has people on the bubble and then can push them over to a point of, not being able to make ends meet. And so having that emergency savings, putting those dollars aside, even if it's a small amount, and also being aware of the resources that are out there and available that can help you kind of offset some of the other costs that you might have. So that might be, taking advantage of a local support or even shopping at the commissary if that's the most affordable option for you or your family. There are things that you can do to help save money and then move those dollars over toward that emergency or PCS savings budget area.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, there are a ton of resources. I know that you guys have a lot on your site. We'll find some good links to send folks to. Particularly, I'm thinking of some of the aid relief societies. If you find yourself in a pinch, just don't think that you have to go into debt necessarily. I mean, there are going to be some times where that unfortunately is the issue, but there are a ton of resources and services out there that can help. Even just so much as like understanding what you can be reimbursed for is important here. So I think sometimes we even come across people who are like, I had no idea I could get paid back for that. We just thought we were out of pocket for the hotel. It's like, no. So do get as much information as you can up front so that you're doing this from an informed perspective. For sure.
Yeah, aid societies, especially as it relates to childcare support around a move, like there are just things and resources out there that so many people aren't aware of. Often I think we find ourselves in like a link farm situation. It's like, oh my gosh, there are all these things out there. I don't know where to start.
Yep.
So, making sure that you ask questions and whenever possible, avoiding, assumptions, because it's those assumptions that can really set us behind in a lot of cases, and avoiding things like predatory lenders, looking at things like your interest rate as you understand how to prioritize is just really, really important.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of other move related expenses, often we're adjusting to a new duty station that has a new BAH rate, right? So the basic allowance for housing, sometimes that works out in our favor. And sometimes, dare I say often, it does not. Can you talk a little bit about the BAH rate and how that's in keeping with what we're hearing in our groups and, spouse pages and such, that BAH is nowhere close to cutting it when it comes to housing expenses?
Exactly. So BAH is designed to cover 95% of your housing as well as your utilities. So things like electricity, water, things like that. A GAO report, the Government Accountability Office report last year, found that the system for evaluating and assessing and setting the BAH rates is flawed. And so we know that there are places where, there's no way that BAH is going to get you anywhere near to what you need to pay to get, a good place to live. We also see people who are having to move further and further away from where they want to be so that they can find housing. We're seeing people share homes or share apartments for short-term amounts of time while they're on a wait list for military housing or something like that. And so people really are struggling. There are things that are happening within Congress and also within the Department of Defense to figure out how to more effectively and efficiently assess those BAH rates. And one of the things that we did this year with our 2021 Military Family Support Programming Survey is we used the housing burden scale, which is a validated scale to help us see, what is the burden, the real true burden that military families are experiencing as it relates to putting a roof over their head. And so we have that data. Can't release it yet, but we'll share that.
I was like on the edge of my seat, Shannon.
I'm
I was
sorry.
like, I haven't heard this yet.
No, it's not a good number.
Yeah.
Is what I will say. And so we know that people are digging to deeper levels than they are intended to, or they should, because BAH is supposed to be covering more than it actually is.
Right. Okay. Well, we will stay tuned for that. I can't wait to hear. I mean, not in an excited way, but I am very intrigued to hear what those impacts are. Okay. Well, one other thing that I wanted to touch on, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about what's going on in the privatized housing landscape. You guys, again, were kind of heading the charge on digging in and just hearing more about what families were experiencing in their privatized housing situations. So what have you learned, first of all, and maybe what's been happening over the past couple of years? I know it got a little quiet because of COVID, I think. But tell us what's going on there, Shannon.
Yeah, so I mean, it really started from us, Kelly, from you. You were on the advisory board and you brought this issue to our attention at an advisory board meeting. And so because our research is fully done in-house, we're able to move quickly and put together spot surveys to really give scientific data to what we might be hearing anecdotally to test if it is really an issue that needs to get some attention. So back in 2019, we fielded a survey that in 1 week had just shy of 19,000 survey responses, 17,000 survey respondents. And it really became kind of the cornerstone for understanding what was happening within privatized military housing. So fast forward, 2.5 years now, there has been some progress. So we do have a tenant bill of rights in place. We do have things like a universal lease. Families are entitled to getting 7 years of history, maintenance history on their homes. And so there absolutely are things that have progressed the right way. We know from our research that a lot of military families aren't aware that the tenant bill of rights is there and in place and designed to support them. One of the things that we have seen pretty far and wide is that while these systems and while this is, there in support of military families, while it is a Department of Defense and, service level initiative and priority, a lot of it comes down to what happens on a local level. And there's been varied experiences as far as how it's being implemented. And so that's what we continue to see as a challenge for families. We're also seeing wait lists and people just not having the inventory and the ability to get into a home, which causes problems, of course. And so there's still a ways to go. We are really committed to making sure that we're hearing those stories and we're continuing to elevate it. And there are things that, in some cases sit on the Department of Defense. So things like Evans Law and getting the windows to be at the safe height so that we can avoid any, God forbid, disasters from happening. But some of those things are sitting with the Department of Defense. And so there's a ways to go. I will say that the universal lease is a major milestone. It is the first of its kind. It is a massive step. And hopefully it will help create greater transparency for families. And just, when you're in the middle of a PCS, like the last thing that you have time to really do is read the fine print.
Release, yeah.
And so a lot of people, myself included, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna sign really quick, and taxable goods are arriving, all the things.
Yeah.
And so making sure that everything is as transparent as it possibly can be, is as clear, making sure there are advocates that are in place, making sure that there is a tenant dispute resolution process in place at each location. And so it's progress, but it really, what will make the most difference and matter most is how that happens and is implemented on the local level.
Right. Well, we definitely appreciate the light that MFAN and other amazing organizations are shining on this issue, because I feel like it needs to be better. So we appreciate the work that you all are doing. Shannon, do you have any last words for our folks who are watching? Words of encouragement. We try to find the positive. We're coming into PCS season, pretty hot and heavy here coming up. So what would you leave folks with?
Yeah, just give yourself grace, and however you need to decompress, and lean on others, do it. Don't keep things bottled up inside. Utilize support that's available, Military One Source for non-medical counseling, or talking to a friend. Kelly, you and I have had many evenings where we've, commiserated over the challenges of military life, and it's real, and you need that support. And so be there to be the person to listen, be there to be the person to vent when you need it, and make sure that you're communicating with the organizations and people that you trust, because if we don't hear from you, it's really difficult to know what's going on and know where you need additional support. And so while survey fatigue is very real, we get it. When you can, do take the time to respond to surveys, because it really does help shed light on what's needed. And I can promise you that organizations like MFAN are very committed to making that data matter and lead to real change.
Yeah, and just I'm going to add a nugget in there. If you write a novel in your responses, those novels are read, appreciated, meditated on. Yeah. I mean, you guys, it really is. I know it's I just exhausted all that emotional energy. It's worth it. So please continue to do that. Shannon, thank you so much. And the entire MFAN team, I know you guys are watching. Thank y'all for all the good work that you do. I cannot wait to see you guys in June, whatever. It's close. July. You're right. Okay. For Solution Summit. Okay, Shannon, thanks so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye.